The Real Build is about building better culture, leaders, visionaries, community to better serve the client. I'm your host, Bill Ryman, your broker builder, and I'm here to showcase real business owners building companies with integrity, trust, and a commitment to making a positive impact. Join us as we explore their stories, insights, and strategies for success. With that being said, welcome to The Real Build.
You leave this world behind, so live a life you will remember.
Welcome to The Real Build. I'm your host, Bill Ryman, your broker builder, and today I got another amazing guest coming on for you guys. He's the co-owner of Dynamic Construction, which is Wisconsin's largest framing contractor, founder and president of DC Materials. They are a turnkey framer lumberyard focused on providing labor and materials for large wood frame buildings, serves on the National Framers Council Steering Committee, as the past president, a board member for the Structural Building Components Association, and one of Inc. 5000's America's fastest growing private companies, which we're going to talk about today. Chris Tatge, welcome to The Real Build, brother. How you doing?
Pretty good, Bill. Thanks for the very warm introduction.
No, I'm excited to have you on. We were just talking about that. You're in the framing world, and you've built a really big company really fast, and I know my listeners want to hear how you've done that too. Obviously, this podcast, we direct it towards, the consumer and how we can be better in the trades ourselves too, and be better business owners and help clients and show clients what exactly to look for as well. So before we get started, let's talk about you. So who is Chris Tatge?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, at the core of me is I'm a framer and I'm a carpenter. I still introduce myself as a carpenter, although I mostly sit behind a computer all day. I didn't do well in school, barely graduated high school, and started swinging a hammer at 17 years old, and it was really the first thing that I was really good at. So it gave me confidence that I never had as a kid. It was I loved the work. I loved being a carpenter. It became a big part of me. So spent the first 20 years of my working career wearing a tool belt every day, building houses, got into multifamily. So it's a big part of my identity. And I think a big reason why I've been successful is I've moved on in the industry.
So why construction? We ask ourselves that question, right? It's why how did Chris, you said swinging a hammer at 17 years old. I grew up in the industry, and I've talked about this a million times. It was a love-hate thing for me as a kid. I hated it as a kid. I love it now, because I was the labor, cleaning job sites, sweeping up, always
Yeah.
sweeping, digging ditches, doing, the hard stuff nobody wants to do. And now I'm in the industry. Now I'm building houses, and I love it. And it's with you too. I want to know, like, why not be a doctor? Why not be, a lawyer or something like that? Why'd you get involved in construction?
There was something about working with tangible things that I could learn. I could look at a pile of 2x4s, and I could envision what I wanted to build, and I could create it in reality. And just sort of working with real things worked well for me, for being able to figure out how to do things better. The 17-year-old kid loved wearing, working outside without a shirt, getting a great tan, and all the good stuff that comes. Wasn't so great in the winter, so I definitely hear you on the old. Sometimes you love it, sometimes you hate it, but I just think for the way that I think, the way that I like to understand and learn, being out there actually doing and creating real tangible things, it really worked for me. And I think anybody who's in the trades sort of gets that sort of craftsmanship that creative piece in them that they like to get out when they look at something and they're satisfied, whether it's, really nice wiring going into a box in a panel for the spark key, or um, the way that I can build a nice round set of stairs and it's beautiful. Or the way that a plumber will hack apart my work, whatever it is, that piece, I think, as tradesmen is what keeps me coming back, at least.
Did you have a kind of a creative personality as a little kid? Were you kind of a kid that built stuff and, more played on
Yeah.
your own? Yeah,
we
because
we
I
had
was,
a development going up right behind our house, and when I was 12 years old, my dad would only let me use a jigsaw, and I stole enough scrap out of dumpsters from that development that I built my own tri-level fort. So
wow, that's
it
awesome.
was cursed from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I hope you have a picture of that fort too, because it's
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
you should frame that up, put it in the office. That's how it all began right
Yeah.
there. That's awesome. The creativity, I'm the same way too. Like I was always building stuff. I was always like as a little kid, always coming up with new things, Legos or playing. I was very independent too as a kid to where I can, in my imagination would just take me anywhere and I can, create anything and create different, and I think that's what leads us to where we are today and why we're good at what we are. Another
Yeah.
thing that you said too that stood out to me is like just your perception of how you look at your framing and how you want it to be perfect and done the right way, then the plumbers come up and hack it up and it drives you crazy. But it's that's what makes you stand out, and that's probably what's one of the main reasons has led you to your success. I relate to you in a lot of ways, just because when we build a house, like we want that perfection too. We look at
Yeah.
every single thing and it drives me crazy, the smallest little thing. And it probably drives our subcontractors crazy. Well, it does drive them crazy, but um, that's what makes you stand out as a framer in your industry.
Yeah, and it's that's the thing about sort of finding success in construction is uh, if I want to stand out, all I have to do is do a good job. Right? I have to care about the product that I'm delivering, and if that's the minimum that I'm doing, my phone's going to be ringing, and I'm going to have work lined up. Period. Um, so for anyone out there who's trying to grow their business, um, and you're in the trades, I don't want to say it's a low bar of entry, but your competitors are usually getting by and just doing what they need to do to get the job done. And so differentiators are very easy to come by. And understanding those things that set you apart, and sort of pushing towards those, we can absolutely grow a company doing that, or at least have a great backlog. There's plenty of guys with a pickup truck and a skill saw that have a really great life and they want to keep doing that. So delivering quality is a great way to make sure that you can continue to do that for as long as you want.
That was one of the, I mean, right there is a highlight of the show too. I mean, you can have success in construction by just doing what you say you're going to do, doing it the right way, showing up when you say you're going to show up too. And why do you think it is that a lot of contractors struggle with that though? I wouldn't say struggle. Because I mean, a lot of them just do it that way, and it's kind of put a bad rap on the industry too in some
Yeah,
ways where, people when you think of contract when they because I deal with a lot of second home owners in our area where they're building their second house or their winter house, snowbird house, we call it,
sure.
and they've dealt with contractors up north. Some of them had great experiences, some of them had horrible experiences. So it's almost like I have to teach them what a good experience really is, and they can have one, but it's very it's it's hard to do. It's not hard to do because we do it the right way, but they're like shocked, when they're going through our process versus what they dealt with before. So why do you think there is so much struggle there?
It's I use this example a lot when I go on podcasts or when I do public speaking. Is if you ask a framer what's the fastest way to build an exterior wall, you're going to get 30 different answers. First, I lay down the bottom plate, then I nail the king studs to the bottom plate. A million different ways, right? But what they're all saying really at the core is the fastest way to build an exterior wall is the way that I learned how to build an exterior wall, right? So, and that's maybe it is for you, but we tend to just stick to the ways that the guy ahead of us taught us,
Mm,
right? The people who are our mentors in the trades, the way they did things is the way we do things. Thinking outside of that and being able to think beyond sort of just the ways you're taught really is what's necessary to be able to think more critically about the work you're doing. And I think we tend not to. And I don't think that's even necessarily because of laziness or apathy. I think a lot of guys in the trades are it's hard, it's hard work. It's a long day. You're sweating, you're freezing, whatever. Um, and we need to get our work done and we do the work the way we were taught, period.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
So it's a hard job, and improving upon that is an ask. And some guys don't have it in them when you're pushing through. So
Well,
yeah,
you're spot on with that because a lot of guys stick with the old school approaches on every aspect of the business too. Like you and I are sitting here doing a podcast. This is a new modern thing to get who we are out there into the
yep,
world, right? And I've been doing different things where I mean I've heard contractors talking crap saying stuff because I'm building for their clients, right? They built a house originally for their client, now their clients came to me. Well, what I'm
yep,
doing must be working. That's funny first, and then second of all, then the client tells me, oh, they're like, oh yeah, they were talking about your videos and stuff like that. Now a lot of them are doing video, and I've already been doing
yeah,
it for
yeah,
5 years where I'm ahead too. So doing these things that most aren't comfortable doing and getting, that's advancing us and in the long term too. We're playing the long term game more than anything. I'm about to build a studio in one of our offices too. Nobody's done that before because
yeah,
now people are doing video. I'm going to get ahead. What's my next thing to do?
yeah,
And one of my mentors and coaches has one, and he's had a lot of success with that whole production in that studio. And it just makes him bigger than what he really is too. And that's the world we live in. And
yeah,
I love what you're doing too with obviously you guys are framing and you're providing the material too. That was a game changer because there's not a lot of framers doing that. So talk about that more of a turnkey approach that you guys are doing as
yeah.
well.
So one point that's worth making about the turnkey thing is what I'm doing in Wisconsin is very new to Wisconsin. It's not new to the marketplace. If you
Mm,
look at the Mid Atlantic, they started doing turnkey in the 1980s, and all kinds of different parts of the country. Constructions are very regional in how everyone gets the job done. But um, what I'm doing is not new, and they're being able to reach out beyond your market and outside of your market to find new ways to do your work. It's reaped obvious rewards for me. So, but the lumber piece, for years, I wanted to I wanted to be involved with design. I wanted to be involved with pre-construction, and I wanted to be involved with the decisions that affected my performance once those products got on site. And I had a general contractor who didn't want me necessarily involved because he didn't want me digging in and saying this is extra, that's extra, or at least that's the perception of what would have happened. And then there was a lumber salesman who didn't want me involved because I create work for him. Hey, I want to run this exterior wall up to the bottom of subfloor sheeting and eliminate a floor truss in this area, potentially adding cost, right? Um, and then I wanted material when I needed it, and I figured out in around 2017, I figured out that the only way that I could get that control is if I was the guy writing the check for that material. Then I could dictate exactly what I wanted. Um, so breaking into the supply chain, it's not necessarily an easy thing. When you're selling a commodity, um, and there's a lot of people in that supply chain that don't really add value. Uh, it's hard to add value to a two by four. We do it, but and I can talk about how we do that. But so a lot of people circle the wagons, and they're very protective of their relationships with mills, distributors, the whole thing. And so it took me about a year and a half to get to sort of cast my vision for what we could be and get buy-in from enough vendors that I could sell material packages. So end of 2018, sold my first lumber package. Um, and again, having that control helped me set my labor on site up for success. I could choose to spend more money on the lumber package and take less profit on that side if it helped streamline things on site. And that's the way we've continued to be successful. I choose every single time to spend the money and make sure my labor is successful on site. So um, the lumber thing's been a game changer. And like you mentioned in the introduction, we made it in 2023. We were the 539th fastest growing company in America. Um, so it's worked really well. We grew 1,126%
Wow.
over the course of 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's unbelievable too. And it's just how do you, I mean, you said it took a year and a half to be able to do that. Like, how does somebody even, I mean, for the listener out there, I mean, not necessarily as like a framer that's a listener. If there's a plumber that wants to get their own material and supply their own
Yeah.
material, or if there's, an electrician, like, how do you even get to that point? I mean, it's
Yeah.
like,
It's
it's,
it's I found some people who had a financial interest in my success, who
okay.
understood the industry, right? So lumber salesman, I guess understanding the market dynamics of how those products get to a job site or get in your hands in the first place. Looking up the supply chain. Are there there's a lot of there's some easy ways. There's some um, where do plumbing products, who are the local distributors? What are their standards for who they will and will not sell? Understanding that. Do the people who work in the plumbing products industry have an annual conference? Where's that at? Can I go shake some people's hands?
Hmm.
I go to the Montreal Wood Convention every year in April, and I'll tell you what, there's hundreds of people there, lumber traders, lumber mills, distributors, uh, hundreds of people, and every year I'm the only framer there, right? What kind of an advantage is that for me in building the relationships that I need and working up the supply chain? And so just looking outside of just what's right in front of you can help you understand how you can break into those relationships.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I mean, one thing that stood out there too is you're actually going out and shaking hands and getting in front of people too. I think a lot of contractors struggle with that. Just getting to know people, networking, just building presence as a company,
Yep.
and a lot of them actually just they don't do that. They just kind of stick to their guns. That's it. And
Yeah.
one thing I'm doing that I got out of what you're talking about too is I'm trying to get in front of more people as well and grow our business. And so talk about that a little bit of how you've been successful doing that.
Well, networking is being able to go out and shake hands and smile, make good conversation, and learn. Um, that's that's a skill, and it's a skill that if you don't have it, you can learn it, and it's a skill I've learned over the years. Uh, people like talking about what they do, and and
Mhm.
uh, and when I go out there, I let them,
Yeah.
I engage them. So. I mentioned conferences or any kind of association events. People are there to network. People are there to sort of do the same thing you might be there to do. So engaging those people is incredibly easy. Asking a lot of questions. Um, I was at a WIDA conference. So that's the state of Wisconsin's housing development arm, right? So there's a lot of bankers, there's a lot of developers, and there's some general contractors. Most of those people are not my customers, but by learning the way a developer thinks, be able to speak that language, just by being in the room and picking up on it, um, I can ask my general contractor customers very good, very specific questions about how things are coming with their contract with the developer. It's knowledgeable, and I'm in a position where I can help that process, whereas my competitors, they don't care, they don't know, they don't understand. So I've become more of a part of the team early on.
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
you
that's, I mean, what you said right there is gold too. I mean, the one thing that stood out to me right the most is that you actually go and you listen. A lot of
know,
people go to talk about themselves, right? And you go to actually listen and take in what these people are doing. And then you're meeting new people in the process who, well, you are right. People like to talk about themselves. So you're allowing them to do that. You're getting to know how they talk and how they speak, and then you're able to, and they'll probably introduce you to other people. I mean,
absolutely.
if you're a good listener and I'm sitting here and you're listening to me and I like you, I'm gonna be like, hey, meet my friend over here, and that it's just it reciprocates and just keeps going to where you get to know more people. They know you, your presence is more known too. That's so huge what you said right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I wanted to go into another thing with it. Like, let's talk about your growth because it's been unbelievable, right? And giving some little bit more of other things that you've done, obviously going to conferences, stuff like that has helped tremendously too. But what makes you stand out most over all of your competition?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned that we're unique to Wisconsin in the lumber delivery package, right? So the biggest standout for me is I'm competing with local lumber yards on lumber sales, and I'm competing with labor-only framing contractors for the labor on those projects. Because I own both the material and the labor, I can offer unique value engineering opportunities where I can address,
Mm,
if we swap this material out for that, you'll save X. And I can understand the labor implications and speak to those labor implications doing that material swap. So we spend a lot of time when we get a plan that we have not been awarded digging into that plan and trying to understand how to extract value out of it. If I can swap an LSL plate for a southern yellow pine plate on a 200,000 square foot building, that's $40,000 that that developer doesn't have to spend, right? Um, and here's the specs, here's the engineering. Your engineer can decide if it's going to perform up to the standards that he wants to see. But we put that kind of stuff out there for our general contractor customers to go back to their developers, right? So we act like a real partner. Um, we we take as good care of our labor as we possibly can. We've got employees. We also use subcontractors, right? Really, really talented framing contractors who have 5 to 20 employees, and they're really good at framing, but they're not really great at business. It's hard for them to come to the table and show up in a meeting room and ask for a contract for $1 million. Um, so we sort of fill that gap, right? We can come in and be professionals. We can meet the insurance requirements that our GC customers need. We can work through the billing software that is necessary in today's world. Um, and we can pay our subcontractors quickly. We can position them for success. If there's if there's a gray area that we missed in scope review with them, we usually go into our pocket and make it right. And so we take care of our partners down and up the supply
Mm.
chain. So that's been a real great competitive advantage for us. If there's a commercial or multifamily framing contractor in our area that is looking for work or needs to stay busy, we're usually the first ones they call because we absolutely will work for them to make sure they can be successful.
I love what you said there as far as, you take care of your employees and you take care of your subcontractors too. And I relate to you that way. I mean, if they do the job right, they get it done, we pay them right away.
Yep.
It's we pay them like gold. It's just, take
Yeah.
care of your subs, they're gonna take care of you, and that's the way we've always been. We have some where, it's a little bit, they'll send the bill early, or they'll ask for
There's
money.
always that guy, right?
Yeah, yeah, or they'll be asking for money before the job's done. We
Yeah,
we got those
yeah,
ones too. But
yeah.
I mean, we've always, through everything we've done, we've always found the right subs. We have really good subcontractors right now, and we're possibly going to be working with a few others that I've met through networking and building the company and relationships and stuff like that. But talk about the importance. Obviously, you being the leader of the company and being, leadership and its
Yeah.
importance over your employees, because I talk about leadership too. That my aspect of it is we're building leaders, right? And it's almost like a funnel from the bottom up, and that's how I think, because everything, John Maxwell always talks about everything rises and falls on leadership. So if you can create leaders too within your organization, they can build leaders. And the more leaders you actually have, obviously there's one captain of the ship, that's going to be you, but you
Sure.
want to create people that have that drive just like you to create more. And that's how you build a
Yeah.
stable company. So talk about the role of leadership that you have and how important that is to you.
Yeah. There's a few things with that. When you're in a quickly growing company and you're having a lot of success and you're getting highlight headlines and people are asking you on their podcasts, uh, that's really it's unique and it's great and it's something that everyone in your company can get behind. So it's on that to that end, sort of the vision and the achievements and all of that, having an attitude that everyone should be and can share in that success and sort of feel like they own a piece of that success, right? It's it's uh it's easy to talk about and it's easy to do. That's that's a gimme. One thing that, and I got to credit my business partner Eli with this. He's always had this. We've always had this management style. People don't like being micromanaged,
Hmm.
and our attitude's always been we lay out responsibilities for our leaders and for the people who do work for us. We make sure they understand it, and we make sure that they take care of their responsibilities. And that's the attitude is, here's your job, go do your job, and I will mostly leave you alone. So putting that onus you're responsible for these things rather than checking in every hour all the time
Mm.
makes my life easy. It sets us up for success. So there's, you know, being able to make sure that everyone who works for us understands that they get a lot of freedom. With that freedom comes a responsibility to take care of their own work. Uh, Works really, really well for us. And when you're in a growing company, being able to put people in those positions really sets you up to have the freedom that you need to bring in new systems, work on new ideas, and continue to push the envelope.
I love that. I highly agree with you on that as far as not micromanaging. I think it's more of an old school approach of business. That's how it used to be too. And I think modern day business is getting great employees that want to be a part of, like you said, the vision. You as the leader, you sell the vision. You have the vision, you're the visionary, and then you hire the right people to help create that and
Yeah.
conquer that and so on too. And I memean, obviously, the more the vision goes, the more they go to with the company, and the more money they make, and happier they are too. And I love what you said there because I'm the same exact way in a
Mhm.
lot of ways too. As far as you guys are growing very rapidly too, and
Mhm.
obviously with rapid growth, there is stress, there is struggle, there's a lot of growing pain, and growing so fast too. How are you dealing with that? Maybe talk about some of the growing
Yeah.
pains you've had too, because we all have them as business owners, but at the rate you're going, there's got to be
Yeah.
more. So talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit.
Um, a few things on that. What is it? Gross revenue is vanity, net revenue is sanity, and cash is king.
Yeah.
Right? If you um uh Cash flow is a major, major thing. And anybody who's in a quickly growing business, being able to wrap your head around cash flow and understand where any shortfalls are, what needs to be done to make sure that you have the cash you need to keep your business running, right? That's the number one rule. Don't run out of cash. Um, so behind that is I very early on in my business, I got accounting software. I learned it, and then I started paying someone else to do it for me. But at a higher level, leadership wise, and sort of start being able to fill in all those gaps of what a quickly growing business is and dealing with the stress. I got involved with a leadership development organization. The one I'm a member of is YPO, Young Presidents Organization. Um, I've got a group of peers, other presidents and CEOs of companies that are close to my age range that I meet with once a month for 4 hours, absolutely confidential, and we talk about anything. We talk about the struggles of business. We talk about the pressure it puts on our personal lives. Um, so having that group of peers available to me
Mm.
just to ask things like, "Hey, I think I'm going to run out of money in September next year. What should I do about that?" Go talk to your banker.
Yeah.
That kind of advice that maybe is just old hand to one of my friends that is new to me is incredibly valuable. So finding other leaders that are in a similar position and be able to work off of them, build relationships with them. And the same thing for people in your industry, finding individuals that do the same kind of work as you to sort of help troubleshoot potential problems or new situations that you've never been in. Man, those relationships are worth their weight in gold. That being able to reach out to those people, that's what's gotten me through and helped me avoid a lot of pitfalls. You know, when you're a small contractor, you're a carpenter, you're whatever, uh, you learn from your mistakes,
Mm.
right? I screw something up and I learn and I don't do it again. Well, now you're running $1 million company and your mistakes don't cost you $200. They cost tens of thousands of dollars. And so you've got to be able to segue into getting advice to avoid those mistakes in the first place, right?
It's so huge, man. It really is. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. They kind of try and take it on all by themselves. And maybe they're reading books like Contractors for Dummies or something like that. I don't know, but that's not going to help you. Having people that actually went through it, like you
Yeah.
said, is so crucial in growing a business. And I have mentors. I have a coach, I have, stuff like that. And it's worth spending money too, to obviously you need to find the right coach too. So if you're a contractor out there, do not just spend money on somebody that's never done it before, because there's a lot of those out there that are just playing coach and guru and saying they've done it and had $1 million business at one time, and now they want to coach contractors or whatever it is.
Got to be a LinkedIn solicitation joke in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So just make sure you do a lot of research before you hire anybody. But the best too, like you said, is meeting people, getting out there, going to these events, going to I have clients that are contractors. I have clients that are big commercial contractors that we've built these nice luxury homes for. And I talk to them all the time now and I say, "Well, what you do here? What you do there?" Because I built that relationship with them by building their house for is like we have. And then after the fact and creating relationships, I just finished a house for another guy that he does a mass dirt work, and he owns a big company and does a lot of golf courses, and he's built a major company. And he tells me every time I ask him something, he tells me how he did it. He's close to retiring and stuff like that, but he's had a lot of success. So that is huge what you said there. I don't think a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it. I didn't even like, at one point, I wasn't even thinking like, man, you should maybe go to your clients and ask them for help, because I deal with financial advisors, I deal with, accountants, I
Sure.
deal with other builders, I deal with everybody in all different dynamics of business that I'm building these houses for. And a friend of mine told me, he's like, do you ever, reach out to your clients and, maybe ask them if they want to do some mentorship, or even just
Yeah.
ask them questions? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I never think about it, because you're thinking strictly business. It's
Sure.
strictly business, but you create friendships with them. I'm sure you're the same way with your clients, that it's more of a long lasting thing than just a turn and burn thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And most people are flattered when you go to them for
Yeah.
advice. So it's good. It's good for everybody.
Yeah, it's huge. You are right, because I think a lot of people are afraid to approach that situation and ask for advice. But it's like we talked about earlier. A lot of people want to talk. They
Yeah.
want to tell you what they did. They want to. I went to one of my clients. He was CFO for a big in the waste management business, and I asked him a question like, "Hey, maybe yeah, Joe." I was like, "We should do an episode of the podcast, and we'll film it in your house that we built, and that would be
Mhm.
pretty cool." I go, "We'll just keep it entrepreneurship and talk about what you did." He's like, "Oh, that'd be great. I'd love to do that. Let me tell you what I did. This is so I started here." I was there for probably 2 hours, and I
Sure.
listened to the whole story, everything that he had to say, which was amazing. But
Mhm.
and we could have stayed there all day too, because I didn't hear half the stories that he had to tell me, because I had to get back to work. But it is, you just don't know. I mean, you just have to ask. That's the
Mhm.
thing, and a lot of people are afraid to ask.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you too, because one thing you said, I read this is you said we guarantee our schedule to our customers
Yes.
1 week to put up all the walls and 1 week to build the floor, no matter
Mhm.
how big the building is.
Yeah.
I think it's an 8 week period that you guarantee. So how do you guarantee that? What if there's a hiccup, snowstorm, whatever? Then does
Yeah.
that guarantee go away, or is it, how are you doing that?
We we use, well, first of all, we use panelized walls, so we use
Okay.
building components, and so there's an offsite aspect that really helps us ensure our schedule. Working through that pre-construction process and making sure that everything's done correctly, so we don't have any problems when we go to install, is important. Um, the way we're structured, we add manpower in order to ensure the schedule. So a 10,000 square foot footprint gets, 12 guys, and a 25,000 square foot footprint gets 20 guys. It just depends. Um, the other part of it is, uh, I think a lot of other framers have a tendency and the thinking that if they put less guys or less manpower on a job site, they're going to make more money. And we don't think that way. We spend the money to ensure the schedule. So, um, do I need to pay another crew to come in here and get the stairs caught up? If that's what I need to do, I spend the money. I don't covet that margin so much that it costs the schedule. And that for me is really the key. We put performance over profits when it comes
Mm,
to delivering. And that mindset has helped me uh, capture sort of a higher price when it comes to my labor. A lot of my customers are willing to pay me a little more than my competitors because they know that I'm going to get the job done. And especially now, uh, when the cost of carry on these projects is so expensive, these developers are doing their monthly draws and they're starting to pay interest on that money that goes out. So if they're paying interest on $1 million for 8 weeks for me, or interest on $1 million for 16 weeks for my competitor, that adds up really fast. Um, so we spend the money to get the job done is really what it comes down to, and that's the core of us being able to deliver on time.
I love how you said performance over profit, and I think a lot of contractors struggle with that. Like you said, less is more. They're doing less men so they can make more, which
Mhm.
slows down the job too. So if there's ways that see, I have a team meeting today. I'm going to say this to them too. That was gold right there. Just because that's a separation factor right there for you guys, a huge separation factor that you're willing to spend more money to get the job done, but you're also making more money too.
Mhm.
And it's a very good sales strategy going in, saying, "Hey, we're guaranteeing you this."
Mhm.
Most other companies are going to say this, but we can do it this fast because we're going to put more men on the job. We do it this way. We do it the right way too. We inspect everything. We want perfection.
Mhm.
It's going to cost you a little bit more, but that's what you get when you build, when you go with us.
Absolutely.
And it's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
It's helped us build the largest framing company in Wisconsin.
Yeah. And see, for those of you guys listening right there, it's like Chris is saying, a lot of this stuff isn't rocket science that he's doing. I mean, obviously it's been hard for him, there's a lot of demand and a lot of things in building a company that by no means is easy, getting to where he did, but by keeping it, simple in the strategy of do the work, show up on time, do it the right way, and don't overpromise and underdeliver. Always keep your promises. That's where you've got to where you are today. Hands down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hands down. I wanted to ask you too, when people are looking for a framing company, obviously we just covered these two, but this rolls me into this question because that's what this show is about. Like, what should people look for when looking for a framing contractor?
Yeah.
Whether it's nation, anybody, any state, in the United States, what should they be looking for?
Yeah. Responsiveness is the first thing, right? That's the first touch. Um, is this guy replying to me quickly or getting back to me? And again, it's pretty easy to be successful as a framer. Um, Answer your phone, return phone calls. So responsiveness is a big thing. Understanding sort of uh, if I'm shopping for a framing contractor, I'm asking, do you have employees or you use subcontracted labor, right? For single family homes, you're looking for a framer. Who are the other builders that you work for? How long has your company existed? Do do a CCAP background search on those guys. There's a general contractor in my market who's got a long rap sheet, and he's building houses worth millions of dollars.
Wow.
You know, so so just do a little bit of due diligence. Um, Ask for references. A good framer is going to be willing to give you references. If you're in the multifamily space, they should have a website. They should have some of their projects on their website. Should be able to get references. It should be a professional image that they're putting forward. Um, there's a lot of ways that a framer can sort of make money, and I there's in construction in general, there's two kinds of contractors. There's guys who do what they say they're going to do, and then there are guys who cause chaos and know how to profit out of that chaos, right? When you get into the more commercial side, that sort of is really emphasized. Um, so figuring out which kind of guy you're dealing with is 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 a great step in making sure you're going to get the job that you're asking for.
It's a huge step, and I think a lot of people search for price. A lot of people are price driven. Not everybody, but there is a lot of people. I mean, I deal with it. I've
Yeah.
dealt with it recently where, I just had a potential client call me saying if I brought somebody in, with me that also wants to build a house, would we get a discount? I'm
Yep.
like, it's just a buy one, get one deal. Cause I mean, it still affects me profit wise either way. If
Yeah, yeah.
it's not like I'm making any more either, but there's a lot of price driven people, which
Mhm.
we're not for them.
Yeah.
We do charge what we charge, but we get it for a reason, just like yourself. And,
Yeah.
we over delivered every client. And, it's huge. What everything you said right there is so spot on. And if people played that playbook to the T, they would have a lot of success in business
Yeah.
in general.
Yep. Absolutely.
I want to go back to so you're I've since I've relaunched this podcast again, I got away from this question, but you're going to be the first one I'm going to bring it back to because
Okay.
I used to love this question. Um, and it's what about you personally? You have built an amazing company and brand that continues to grow each and every day. So what
Yep.
lessons have you learned throughout your journey that we should all apply to our own business or lives that can help us grow?
What have I learned? I spent 20 years like out working in the winter every single winter, freezing my butt off, right? Um, and at some point, I started looking outside. I tried to shed the blinders that I had on, and as soon as I took those blinders off and I started looking out beyond my market, I found a new and interesting, great path to success,
Mm,
right? And I think and again, it goes back to that sort of daily grind. And what are you doing to, I'm getting by, I'm putting food on the table, making sure that my family has a roof over their head. And sort of ever since I looked out past what was normal in my market, I've had a huge amount of success. And I did that 40 years old. And and what would my life look like now if I had done that at 30,
Mm.
right? So that's for me, that's I loved being a framer and I loved wearing a tool belt every day. But I there's 10 years right there that I could have been growing this thing earlier. So for what that's worth, that's my big takeaway.
No, it's huge. It's huge because you are doing things differently, and that's what makes you stand out in your market,
Yep.
100%. And I commend you for that because when you think outside the box, like, I'm always trying to do the same thing you are and you look back, what if I did it earlier? But hey, it's God's timing, right? So
Yep.
it's everything happens for a reason, and you're currently as successful as you are and continuously growing too. So let's talk about that a little bit to wrap this up. Is most people talk about the past. Let's hear about your future. So where will
Sure.
Chris be in the next 10 years?
Yeah, we're going to continue to grow. We're pushing outside of our market and getting more market share and developing new relationships outside of the ones that we have right now. I'm interested in getting more involved on the engineering side. One of the hangups that we've had is um, you've got an engineer of record, and if they're fresh out of school and this professors have put the fear of God and then they want, then they, I've built some buildings where there's, they're tremendously overbuilt. Um, so being able to own that piece and be creative on that piece in the engineering side and speak to that would be an incredible tool for us to help build these buildings in a more affordable way, in a more efficient way, in a way that the structure is sound and good and solid and not overbuilt. So I'm very interested in that. We just opened in the sort of next few years. We expanded our yard operations. We've got 100,000 square feet laydown space. We've got indoor storage, and so moving into holding more inventory and being able to deliver lumber at consistent pricing. Those are great tools for us. So um, we're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to add value to the process. I really believe that the framer out of any of the other trades that touch a building is in a unique position to make everyone else successful. So learning from mechanical trades and everyone who follows our work and incorporating that knowledge into what we deliver will again give us an advantage, almost to deliver more affordability. We'll get preferential treatment. If there's it's not much better than one of the mechanical trades asking who the framing contractor is and being happy when they hear it's us. So yeah, a lot of good stuff happening
Oh, for
uh,
sure. I got no
over here.
doubt. I got no doubt you guys are going to be even more huge than you already
Yep.
are too, just listening to this. But I could relate to you on the engineer side of thing and the over engineering
You're in
too. So,
Florida. You really
oh
have.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, a lot of it is very, very, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I've had to go
No.
back with my
Yeah.
architects and engineers and being like, this is a little bit overkill right here
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the amount of concrete they're gonna have to pay for this. Oh yeah, okay, we could just make that block instead of a solid pour or whatever,
Uh-huh.
but I deal with it too. Chris, this has been awesome, man. I really do appreciate your time and you coming on today. Where can people find and connect with you?
I'm very active on LinkedIn, so just search my name on LinkedIn. My contact information is also uh, at the website for the National Framers Council. So just Google search National Framers Council. Um, I'm always happy to be available. I'm always happy to mentor. Email me, call me, or direct message me over LinkedIn.
And hopefully you're moving to Florida soon and open up shop because I'd love to work with you. So that's in the future.
I've got a few good framers, so we'll have to connect offline on
All
that.
right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Obviously, please take the time to share, like, subscribe, do what you got to do. 5-star reviews is what this one deserves, too. So go on iTunes, rate it 5 stars. We appreciate you, and we will see you guys on the next episode.